Ha ha ha! Have at thee! Oh! Hello dear viewers and welcome to a new video. Today we are looking at Dungeons & Dragons Chronicles of Mystara. Chronicles of Mystara is a compilation of 2 RPG-flavoured arcade scrolling beat-em-ups by Capcom. Dungeons & Dragons scrolling beat-em-up, how could we possibly go wrong, dear viewers? This here compilation consists of 2 games. The first, Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom, was released in the Mystical Arcades back in 1994. The sequel and second of the 2 games here is Dungeons & Dragons Shadow over Mystara, released in 1996. So, we are looking at games from quite far few ages past, when Capcom was releasing some of their top arcade fighting games. As the name on the box suggests, both titles were released in the Mystara settings of Dungeons & Dragons. I won't go into differences between this and, say, the Forgotten Realms, as the discussion of game settings could be a video unto itself and probably by more qualified people. Yes, that's the reason. Or not that you have no idea about the mysterious setting, having only ever played D&D in the Forgotten Realms, and would only be reading off what you'd read from a wiki. Yes, that is probably it. I know about some stuff and things, but not all. Anyway, yes, games, both games, are therefore thematically similar with same races, monsters, magic, etc. Dungeons & Dragons Chronicles of Mystara has a wonderful start menu. If we press space, we should get into the menu itself. In the arcade mode, you can play it on the arcade. Online, you can play it online. Leaderboards, you can check all the leaders and how wonderful they all are. Challenges, well, you can do some challenges, earn some XP. Vault, not quite sure what that is, maybe things. And what else have we got? We've got help and options, which is always nice. Settings, controls, how to play, credits, and obviously, if we press Control, we can switch over from Tower of Doom to another one, Shadow over Mystara. Wonderful stuff. In the Tower of Doom, players can select from one of 4 playable characters, namely a cleric, dwarf, elf, and fighter. This is in the before times when dwarf and elf were considered classes unto themselves, I imagine. In later D&D editions, of course, you can be many classes with either race. The cleric is an able fighter, brandishing a mace and shield while able to cast divine spells. These are spells of a more controlling, healing variety. The elf is the least in combat, but makes up for it with numerous powerful spells. The fighter is a very good all-round character that has high HP and melee combat skills, though they are unable to cast spells. Lastly is the dwarf, who is obviously the best and should always be selected when playing this game. Once selected, the players embark on a quest to rid the land of the evil machinations of the Archlich Deimos. Our heroes travel to numerous locations of the land, defeating various foes that you would expect, such as goblins, trolls, dragons and such, all leading up to the final fight with the Archlich himself. Shadows over Mystara, the second of the 2 games, allows selection from 6 characters this time. There is the 4 from the Tower of Doom, plus the new Thief and Mage classes. As you might deduce, the Thief is adept at picking locks, detecting traps, and some unique movement abilities. The Mage, of course, is a very powerful magic user who's not very good in melee combat at all. The players are able to even pick the same character twice, with both versions of the same character rendered with their own unique sprites. The story follows on from the previous game. It is revealed that Deimos was merely part of a greater evil. It is revealed the evil Lich was actually working for an even eviler sorceress named Sin. Once more, our heroes must set out on a quest to rid the land of minions before finally confronting the powerful sorceress herself. So, now, gameplay. Both games are, at their core, scrolling beat-em-ups. This means the player character sprites move from left to right in the traditional manner, while beating up baddies along the way. Unlike most of the genre though, our heroes make use of weapons, rather than embarking on a spree of bare-knuckled fisticuffs. What sets this game aside earning that stamp of D&D, you might wonder? Well, there are several things of note. Firstly, each character has an inventory for which they can select both items to use and spells to cast. Players can throw daggers, hammers, oils, and other items, while certain characters have access to the spells which they can then select to wreak havoc upon their foe. Also, the characters are able to gain levels as you would while playing Dungeons and Dragons itself, though it is much reduced in that you level automatically and gain arbitrary stats such as more health, but this little sense of progression is nice. The fighting is good, as with any Capcom beat-em-up of the time, with a mix of attacks and magic, or utility weapons, helping to mix things up. Sadly, you cannot go into holds and fling people about. Perhaps that was too brawly, whereas the developer wanted to see a more sword and sorcery style. The sprites are wonderful, of course, again, as you would expect, though games in 3D worlds with 3D characters and scenery from 20 years ago can look quite blocky and drab compared to the games of modern times. I must admit these old titles still have a lot of charm to them. Two-dimensional artistry and sprite work, especially in the arcades with much more powerful hardware, is second to none. I am sure my age and nostalgia plays into this in no small amount, but there is something about pixel artistry that brings feelings of warmth whenever I witness such fine work. I guess those ingrained images staring at the arcade screen as myself and my family try to complete the likes of Turtles Arcade, WrestleFest or Moonwalker are memories I cherish. Simpler times. Beyond the leveling, use of inventory, and spells and thematic characters, the game also has other RPG-like features. Firstly, our heroes are presented with numerous decisions throughout the game. Do you follow the baddies into the forest, or carry on to the fort? Do you really want to fight that massive dragon that will burn you all to cinders? This and many more lie within. The other interesting feature is the use of a shop. No, dear viewers, this is not some in-game cash shop where you can purchase powerful items for real money. No, this is a shop in which our characters can buy items and consumables with the gold they pick up during each level. Should your health be low, you could buy a healing potion, which I think would prove vital in the arcade, so you wouldn't need to add more coins yet. You can easily get through either of the games in one sitting. I would suggest you play them in order, that is, Tower of Doom first, followed by Shadow over Mystara, as the story kind of carries on as mentioned. I would recommend this compilation to anyone who enjoys classic scrolling beat-em-ups, especially those who would like a bit of D&D as well. Perhaps the nostalgia value is there, of course, but I still think it's worth it for anyone intrigued enough, and of course, it is on sale often. And so, dear viewers, both of you, I thank you for checking another video of me rambling on about some old games from decades ago. Obviously book and all that, and if you like the video you can do the usual stuff, whatever you fancy. Thank you, and goodbye. No one said there'd be dragons.